Welcome back to Mark of All Trades, guys. So today I have Abby with me. I recently cross-trained into a different career field, and she's in my class of what I'm trying to do. And I met her and we started talking about hunting stories, and I thought that she'd be an awesome guest for the channel. So I want to welcome Abby. Thanks for coming on. If you could just give us a little bit of, tell us about yourself.
Well, like Mark said, I'm Abby, and I am married with 2 boys, which is kind of crazy because we have a lot of different hobbies that we like to get into, which is why me and Mark have so much in common with this, considering that both of my boys are very active in the outdoor lifestyle, and so is my husband. So
That's awesome.
It's a family affair, that's for sure.
That's super cool. That's awesome. Can you tell us about how you got into hunting?
Oh, it is like a family tradition, in the sense that my dad has been hunting forever, and then before him, his dad. And in our area, from where I'm from in central Pennsylvania, it is very much a tradition, so much so that the first day of hunting season is a day off from school.
That's
so you know your local community supports it if they take away, they make you're able to take off from school just to do that.
For sure.
So my dad, he definitely started me into hunting, and my brother is also an avid hunter as well. And my sister, she hunts too.
That's
Not really
cool.
my mom, but we all know how to shoot a gun.
That's awesome. What age did you say that you started hunting?
Well, I started going out with my dad on his hunts I remember as early as kindergarten going out. So that was about 5 years old. I was going out in the woods with him because, you know, they had it AM and PM kindergarten classes, and I was in the PM class, so that was me and Dad going out in the morning to go hunting, and then we would he'd get me back home in time to catch the bus to go to school. So
That's pretty awesome.
yeah, and then I took hunter safety course. I think I was 12 when I took hunter safety course, and then started going out on the hunts as early as that. So
For sure. Do you think that, like, since you started hunting at such a young age, that you learned a lot from the hunter safety course? Or did you pretty much, like, have a good flow of what was going to be anticipated in that course?
Well, I don't know. I mean, the hunter safety course was significantly just a small amount of time that you spend in the class in comparison to the experience that you go. So, I mean, because I had started so young, it was all just kind of instilled. You knew how to put on a drive in the woods and stuff, making sure that you knew where your line of fire was, and making sure you knew where everybody was in the woods, and then also just knowing how to navigate throughout the woods. And that was something that you just learn, whether you're hunting or whether you're out hiking. Or I'm a horseback rider, so if I'm out horseback riding, you need to know how to read the woods and be able to navigate your way home in that instance.
Definitely.
So.
It sounds like you're able to, like, morph all those into one to where it, like, really helped you out.
Oh yeah, definitely. I use all the different skills from being able to take my horse out and just go riding by myself for an entire day, and knowing the different dangers and that, and knowing where to find good water and everything, and knowing where to go and when to go there, and you know, and what to expect when you're traveling at certain times of the day. You know, yeah, I would have to say that you morph the different experiences into one, and you just use the skill set the whole way through.
That's awesome. That's super cool. That sounds super useful. I know you're talking about your dad earlier, and he took you out into, like, you know, the woods and stuff when you were in kindergarten. Would you say that he's your mentor, or do you think that you'd have another hunting mentor? You can obviously have a couple.
Oh yeah, my dad is definitely my mentor. So this past year, we went out. It was the first time I had got to go out for rifle season in a good couple of years, and I was nervous. I had a brand new gun, whole other story about getting that gun, but I hadn't even shot it yet. I didn't sight it in or anything. I had this brand new gun. Long story. But anyway, I was nervous. And my dad, he sat with me on the very first time out there in a long time. And we're sitting out there, and he just talked me through it. And as the week went on, I got more and more confident and was able to, well, he had to go to work, so of course I was out there.
Yeah.
I was out there going and finding my own spots to sit for a while.
Nice.
And but my husband, he's also a mentor in the archery aspect. My family was not archery hunters when we were growing up. We were only just rifle.
Sure.
And so my husband's been guiding me through learning how to archery hunt and stuff. And we're taking that skill and teaching our boys the same too.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I think you were saying that he's a super good shot with the bow.
Oh yeah, he's like Robin Hood. It's pretty. I always feel really good whenever we're out at the range and I get a really nice grouping, and then he comes over and he sits there and he just blows mine out of the water, darn near messes up my arrows because he's shooting too dang close to him. But, yeah.
Sounds like an expert, that's for sure. That's awesome. So we'll move on to the next question. Can you tell us the story of your first deer harvest?
Yes, I can tell the story. Do you want all the gory details?
We can hear it all. You tell us the story that you want to say.
Okay. So, my very first deer harvest was pretty gruesome. And okay, so here's how it went down. But I took my first shot on a deer that was probably about 30 yards or so away. And when I shot it, I was aiming right behind the shoulder and trying to get a good shot. Sure enough, I ended up hitting right below the shoulder, right where the arm, or right where the front leg meets the shoulder. And well, that didn't stay on there very long. That four-legged deer shortly became a 3-1. Anyway, and so if you can imagine, it became a very graphic deer running through the woods and trying to get a good shot on it and anticipating its movements.
Mm-hmm.
I tried getting another good shot on it and ended up hitting it right under the jawline, which was very gory. And then I took one last shot because those two did not kill it. The very last shot I ended up missing, and at that point I was going to have to reload my gun, which is whenever my brother, he stepped in and he took the shot for me. So I shot the deer. Did I kill it? No, not. I mean, I did, but I didn't.
We can count that for
Yeah,
sure.
I gutted it, if that counts. I mean,
There you go.
I like to think that that was the redemption.
But the thing is like, I remember shooting even now, like, it's like whenever you see a deer, like, you're not just going to sit calm, like, you're going to have, like, that anticipation. And I think, like, the first couple, like, archery deer that I've missed, I was just shaking like this, and it's just, my arrow wasn't even close to the deer. So, like, I can definitely relate to, like, what you're talking about.
Oh,
So,
yeah, that buck fever that you get, oh my gosh. It's definitely intense whenever it hits you, and you just, it is hard to overcome, that's for sure. Once you start shaking, it's hard. It takes like 20-30 minutes just to try and get your heart rate back down.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's always people that are going to be out there, like, you should, the first shot should be the kill shot. But I mean, everyone's been there. If you hunt long enough, it's going to happen,
Yeah.
So, yeah. Can you tell us about the hunting land that you hunt?
Ooh, the hunting land, huh? The public or the private?
Let's talk about both.
Okay, so like I said, I come from a central part of Pennsylvania where it is very rural, and my hometown butts up against a lot of the game lands. We have the game lands, which we've got over 10,000 acres of game lands, and then it goes into the state parks, and in which some of the state parks you can hunt in the back parts of it where there's not any real tourist attractions to it. But and anyway, so it kind of rolls from one into the other, depending on how how early in the season will kind of determine where we're hunting.
Sure.
Whenever it comes to the private lands, our area has significantly shrunk in size in comparison to when it was when I was growing up or when my dad was growing up. It used to be, you would be able to hunt all over the neighboring hills and that. But now there's a lot of posted properties or no trespassing, and so you'll be out there trying to get a good hunt on, and you'll be walking straight for a half mile, and the next thing you know, you got to turn and make a left because somebody's got their posted property, and you can't hunt that. So
right.
That makes a lot of challenges, and it's always my favorite to see posted property, and then those people that have their property posted, they're out on the public lands hunting. That's my favorite.
Playing both sides, huh?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna get too far into my thoughts in that one, but anyway, the public lands out home, they're really nice in the fact that there's so much there to hunt, and a lot of it has been over the years. It had been converted from old coal country, so whenever you're walking out there, the trees are they're set up almost in a line from being replanted after it's been coal mined. So it's interesting because then you can also get on like a road that is big enough that you can drive back in there, or if you need to get an ATV back in there, you're able to go in and
that's nice.
Yeah,
that's super nice.
So it's really nice. I like hunting in Pennsylvania because of the rolling mountains, versus I've seen like where my husband hunts in Tennessee. It is just straight up and down those darn mountains. That's not happening. Whereas whenever we're out in Delaware, which is where we currently live, it's all flat, so we can't use the rifles in Delaware. We have to use the shotguns or archery hunt. That was the same as in Oklahoma, so it was just kind of different whenever you go out hunting.
Sure.
But same thing, like whether it was private or public lands in any of those states, it always just kind of depends.
Yeah, absolutely. And just like what you're saying too, like I'm sure it's like a different kind of workout too, versus Tennessee versus, PA and, out in Delaware.
Oh yeah. My husband, he, whenever he's out hunting in Tennessee, he likes to go up and he finds a spot and he sits and he stays right there. And so he'll be there in that same spot all day. In Pennsylvania, that's not how we do it. We usually put a drive on because the mountains are a little less steep, so we're able to walk the base of the mountain and then gradually have different people up alongside the mountain and be able to put a drive where we're driving it all the way across the mountainside.
I see what you're saying. Is that pretty successful when you guys do that?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, we've done well.
That's awesome.
So.
That's super good. So when you're talking about this upcoming season for 2021, do you have any goals for this upcoming season?
So I'm moving to Washington State, and I hope that I get to go out this year. I am still planning on coming back to Pennsylvania for rifle season, hopefully. If not, then it'll probably be late archery season. But in Washington, I'm hoping to go out and get an elk.
That would be incredible.
Yes, I don't know if it'll happen this year, but that is one of my goals.
That's awesome.
I want to get an elk if I can get it. I'd really like to get one with my rifle and then get one with my bow, but I'm still working on my aim with the bow and arrow. So
that would be so cool. That's like one of my dream hunts. That'd be awesome.
Right, like it sounds awesome. And out in Washington, apparently there's just herds of them all over the place.
Jeez.
Yep. I keep seeing some houses while I'm looking in the housing market. I see them in the backyards of some of those places, and I'm like, oh yeah, I could hunt an elk. That's fine.
That's like not a single person thing though. Like from what I've seen is that like you need like a group of people to pack one of those out because you're not just gonna pull it out,
Right.
Like. Yeah.
It's kind of convenient that I have the horses, because I hear that you're supposed to take the horses out on those elk hunts because you got to quarter them while you're out in the woods, and then you pack them and bring them home, just like they do that with moose too.
Mm-hmm.
I think you have to quarter them while you're out in the woods, which is kind of scary then too, with the predators that are out there once they smell that blood.
Yeah, because it's not like you're right by the road. You know
Right.
what I mean? So you're in their country. That'd be awesome. I mean, you already got the first step down. You got the horses. So
I got the horses.
That's awesome. So I guess the other thing I would ask you is, how do you measure a successful season? Like, would you measure it with, like, I know obviously you're in the military, you get to go back home and see family and friends and things like that. Would that be a successful season, or is it necessarily putting meat in the freezer?
Well, it's always good after all that walking that you have something to show for it. But I really valued the amount of time that I got to spend with my dad and my brother-in-law, and being able to go out and spend that time with them. It was funny too, this last hunting season, I was up in Pennsylvania hunting while my kids and my husband were in Tennessee hunting. And so we were in different states hunting, and so I got to spend a lot of quality time with my parents and my sister and her family, and we got to hunt like that without any added distractions or anything to it. That was just the main sole focus of me being there, was to hunt. And I ended up coming back with a deer, which was great for me. And so, where's my husband? He came back empty-handed. So, but I mean, it was definitely successful in that sense. I don't know. I don't ever really remember a year where we didn't have deer in the freezer at the end of the hunting season.
Wow, that's awesome.
So yeah, you know, whether it was my brother who got one, or my dad, or my brother-in-law, or me, or my sister, we all do our part and bring something to put in that freezer. So I mean, at the end of the season, it's I don't know. I guess I never not had a deer in there.
That's
now
a good problem to have. You know?
There are years where we'll run out of venison a lot faster than we anticipated, which will be very irksome because when I was growing up, we didn't eat a lot of beef. We always ate venison. We, grounded it up for the burg, the hamburger meat, or whatever you call it.
Sure.
Ground beef, ground venison. Anyway, so all of our burgers were like that. Our roasts were, for the most part, either pork or venison. We didn't really eat too much outside of venison, but there were years where we'd run out by like June or July, and it was like a momentous moment when we would have that, because we'd be like going down to the freezer in the basement and we'd go, oh no, this is the last pack of venison. Tell everybody we're almost out of venison. Tonight's the night we're gonna finish this last pack, and then that was it. Yeah. And so then we'd go the next couple of months without any venison. But yeah. So.
But that's so cool how, like, you guys know where your meat came from. You know that you provided it and put it on the table. And I think you were telling me too about like how you guys like process the deer and stuff, about like everyone has like a place and we all
have a job.
That's awesome. That's super phenomenal.
Yeah. Yeah, this past year we had, I was in town for about a week over hunting season, and we harvested 4 deer. My brother-in-law got 2, my dad got 1, and I got 1. And you get those early in the morning, so we would make sure we got them, and then we'd have them hanging in the garage to, before we cut them up, and then we would quarter them later in the evening. We'd make like a whole event out of it. We'd have dinner, and then once we got done with dinner, then we would clear off the kitchen table and get the counters all cleaned up and ready to go. And then my dad and my brother-in-law would be sitting there cutting the meat off the legs, and then we would have my sister running the grinder, and then me and my mom, we were packing and labeling and divvying it out between who's getting what.
Sure.
So between the 4 deer and our 3 families, we were dividing it up, you know, making sure everybody got some.
Oh yeah.
It wasn't so much like, since it was my brother-in-law's deer, that we were packing it just for him.
Mm-hmm.
No, we were dividing up the meat so that we could bring it home.
I think that's awesome because not many people know how to do that. Like, yeah, you can go out hunting and stuff, but like as far as like processing the deer, I'll just take it to the processor. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's like, that's a great skill to have.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know, I didn't really appreciate that whenever I was growing up. I always thought that that was how it was. I didn't know that people actually did that for a job, the processing. I always knew taxidermy was a thing, but I didn't know that processing was a thing until I started moving out of state and stuff, and we were living in rental homes, and I was like, you know, tell my husband, you're not putting a dead deer in this rental house, and there's no drain pipe for the blood to go. And he's like, okay. You know, so I didn't really appreciate it until, you know, I got well into my adult years in this. And but yeah, everybody in my neighborhood, for the most part, you have certain garages that were set up to do that.
Sure.
Because you got to have the hoist in order to hang the deer from, and you know, definitely having the know-how of how to do it. But that was something that, you know, especially when we were kids, I remember seeing everybody bringing their deer over to our garage or one of the garages down the road and stuff.
Sure.
They'd bring their deer, and then we'd all pitch in and cutting it up or getting it quartered at least, and then they'd take it home and finish it out at their houses. But yeah, I didn't really...
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I didn't grow up in a community like that, but that sounds like, you know, definitely like a very tight-knit community where you guys are all helping each other out. That sounds phenomenal. So I know we kind of touched on this before, but when we're talking about your choice of weapon, I know you're talking about your gun, and then you just recently got into archery. So if you were to pick, which one would you want to use?
For what? What am I hunting?
Let's say deer. We'll go deer.
Oh, well, let's see. I mean, I really like shooting guns, but I also like I like archery too. But I haven't actually shot a deer with with my bow yet. I mean, I think there's 2 different feelings that you get from it. That whenever I shoot a gun, I'm not connecting as much. It's more of a real harvest, kind of like a farmer goes out to cut down the plants, right?
Sure.
Whereas whenever I'm out, you know, the bow and arrow makes you more connected with what you're doing and making you pay attention more. I think that it presents a different feeling. I don't know. I like that too. I'll probably... No, I'm indifferent. I like them both.
Okay.
And now, however, if I was shooting bigger game, it'd be the rifle.
For sure.
Yeah. So now that's how I feel, because I want to make sure I kill it the first shot, preferably.
Absolutely.
The second or the third. So.
And what kind of rifle do you have?
I have a 243, and what is that? It's a Savage 243, and then I also have a... What is my 270? I have a 270 as well. But I can't remember what brand it is. I had went looking for another Savage 270, but I went on Black Friday and they didn't have any more. So anyway. Yeah. But those are just my guns.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. And that's a good choice, you know. No one can tell you wrong, because, you know, you like that gun, so that's totally fine. So I know you said you had sons and things like that, and you do the Boy Scouts, but what would you say would be the best way for someone to get into hunting? So like if you were going to teach somebody how to get into hunting, what would be the best way? Like, would they find a mentor? Would they join a group? How would you suggest someone who has no idea how to hunt, what's the best way to get into it?
Well, I think the first thing that you would want to do is figure out which one you're more comfortable with, whether you wanted to shoot a gun or if you want to go archery. And I think that's the first step you need to take in order to figure out what type of mentor or where to start looking for that type of stuff. You know, so if you choose to go with the rifle hunting and you want to learn more about that, then definitely finding somebody to mentor you out on a range so that you can learn to properly sight and handle your gun, cleaning it and maintaining it. And then also finding out somebody that is good with taking you out in the woods and guiding you through how to figure out where the good spots are sitting and you know, finding the deer rubs and tracking a deer and
Sure.
making sure that you learn how to read the land correctly in that sense. But then also, like if you wanted to go the archery way, oh, yeah, definitely find somebody who knows what they're doing with it. But like I said, I was lucky enough to have my husband who he's been mentoring me through that. And you know, I'm deathly afraid to get into a tree stand. I won't do it, like the self climbers, and not doing it.
Okay.
But there are other ways of doing it. So making sure that you find somebody that will help you adjust to your fears and overcoming them or adjusting to them, whichever way. I think that's the best.
For sure. The way you just described that, it's like the minute details that I just overlooked, because I'm thinking of like big chunks of it, of like, yeah, you need to go find some place to hunt. Like you need to go up to like Bass Pro Shop, you know, and I didn't think about it from like, which side do you want to hunt from? Like, do you want a gun? Do you want archery? And then just like what you were saying too, like how your husband, you didn't just like call it quits because you're like, I'm not going to be in a tree stand. Like he was able to morph it and fit it to your style, you know, and I think that's awesome. That's a good mentor, you know what I mean?
Yeah, he knows that I get really nervous whenever I'm up high, so you know, being in a ground blind might be the best way to go for me, or being in a, now I don't like the self-climbing tree stands, only because that hunter safety course really did do a number whenever they did the safety videos. I was like, oh yeah, I'm like, I'm not gonna get stuck in a tree. And no. So anyway, I don't mind being up on, you know, like a platform up in the trees, you know, if you have like a tree house kind of thing.
Yeah.
I'll be up there all day, that's fine. But I'm not sitting in a tree stand.
Hey, that's totally okay.
That's what I told him.
Yeah. I was hunting public land for a while, and I was using those climbers, like what you're talking about. And if you didn't tie the rope to the top to the bottom and your feet kind of slipped out, it could slide all the way to the bottom.
Yeah.
And I was on public land, and my dad was like probably like 100 yards down, and I had to call him because the bottom fell, but like it was still attached to the rope, but it was too far for me to, you know what I mean? So he couldn't help me, so I had to like figure out. It was a mess, but I definitely understand your your fear and frustration with it.
Totally ruins it for you for that like whole morning, you don't.
Yeah, or if it's not like secured to the tree and you get that little initial that jolt, yeah, it's a little scary. So with that, is there any other stories or anything else you want to talk about?
How about I tell you the one about how I got my buck this year?
Okay, let's hear it.
All right. So, me and my dad, we had figured out we were going to go hunting into the real thick area with some pines, and it's down the bottom road from back in the neighborhood. Anyway, it's hard to explain. Anyhow, my dad had told me, he said, Ab, you're gonna go park the truck. I'm gonna walk up the road here, and then I'm gonna duck up into the woods, and I'll put a drive on and kind of bring the deer towards you. And you know, whenever he does that, he makes a lot of noise while he's going through the woods. Instead of trying to creep through the woods and be nice and quiet, instead he's making lots of noise and trying to drive them that way.
Sure.
And anyway, he's like, now you go park that truck and you climb up the hill, and there's a metal bucket up there at the corner of the hill. It's Uncle David's bucket, and you just go ahead and sit on that. And whenever you sit there, you'll be able to see out at least 100 to 150 yards out. And so I was sitting there for probably a good 30, 40 minutes or so before I started seeing a couple of deer coming in, and I seen two for sure, and then I thought I could see a third one coming. I couldn't tell if they were doe or if they were buck or what was going on. So I waited until they were coming in a little closer, and as they got closer, they were about 110, 120 yards away from me. They're just right at the line of where I was debating on whether or not to take the shot.
Yeah.
But I knew it was the day before I was leaving, so I was taking the shot.
Pressure's on.
Yeah, I was taking the shot. So anyway, I got my gun up and I'm leaned up against the tree because I was sitting on the bucket, but there was nowhere to put a rest down, so I had to just lean up against the tree and then hold it that way.
Sure.
And you got the deer in my crosshairs, and I was all ready to go. I just pulled the trigger, and I shot, and it went right above her neck. Yeah. Okay. Remember, I didn't get time to really sight in my gun, so we were making adjustments as we went throughout the week. And anyway, so I shot this doe, or shot right above the doe's neck, and she didn't move. I was like, really? You're not gonna like jump up, run away? You're not doing anything? No, she didn't move.
Wow.
But then, as I was like getting ready to take another shot, she moved and made like a circle. And then that's whenever I seen the buck come in, and the buck comes around, and I was like, oh yeah, take this shot. So I take the shot, and I got him in the spine, and so he dropped. So then I went ahead and I took another shot, and I got him the second time too. But
nice.
Yeah, that was how that one went this year.
It's wild. I'm sure it happened in like an instant too. But...
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It was crazy, and I can't tell you how bad I was shaking. It was the first time I had shot at a deer in a long time, and I was just so excited to actually have them that close and have a couple of chances.
Right.
Because I was really expecting them to just beat feet and get out of there. But
absolutely.
Nope, they stuck around, so that was good.
After that first shot, you're just kind of like your stomach kind of sinks a little bit because you're like, oh, I missed. Like, you know, that's cool. I can't think of anything else that like gives me that like excitement of like when you're like there's a deer, like, and then you know you start getting that anticipation, like it's unmatched.
Right. Yeah.
So I definitely understand that, and I'll probably miss a couple this year due to that. So you won't be the only one. But I do want to thank you for coming on the channel and, you know, giving us your insight on, you know, your hunting stories. So I appreciate that.
Well, thanks for having me.
No
this
problem.
was fun.
Awesome. Thank you.